Today we're going to take a look at using the Metabones Speedbooster Ultra paired with the Sony FX30. Now I've been using Metabones Speedboosters pretty much since they originated, first coming out with their Micro Four Thirds version for the GH4, GH5 Micro Four Thirds cameras. Metabones also came out with Sony E-mount versions, and they were really popular on the Sony cinema cameras. Now I don't really know many people that used them on the APS-C cameras, but now that we have the Sony FX30, an APS-C or Super 35 camera that shoots 4K 60 10-bit and 4K 120 10-bit, wanted to test out the Metabones Speedbooster. So if you've never used one of these, there are a few reasons you'd want to use them. Probably the biggest reason would be if you have full frame lenses. Obviously this is a Super 35 APS-C sensor, so it is going to crop in on those lenses. However, if you use a speed booster, you get a very close to full frame field of view. I did the math, and on the FX30, you get about a 1.1 crop of full frame using this speed booster and a full frame lens. So another bonus on top of getting a wider field of view, you also get an extra stop of light when using a speed booster. Now that's a good and a bad thing. I think in low light scenarios it definitely helps a little bit, but it does add a few other things that we'll discuss later on in the video. So in today's video, number one, we're going to test out the image quality between using the Sigma 24-70 2.8 ART on the FX30 using the MC11 adapter, and then also using the Metabones Speed Booster. So we'll get an image quality test on that. Another test we're going to do is the autofocus. Now, the autofocus does work on the FX30, but obviously when using a Sigma ART lens with Sigma's MC11 adapter, you get really stellar autofocus performance. So we're going to see how the autofocus on the Speed Booster compares to the MC11. And then after all that, we're going to do one third test, and this is going to be a second use for the Metabones Speed Booster on a camera like the FX30, and that's going to be when you shoot in the 4K 120 frames per second crop mode. Now for that, if you're using APS-C glass and you want to get more area of the glass when using the 4K 120 crop mode, well, that's where the Speed Booster is definitely going to come in handy, as you'll be able to definitely get a little bit more of a shallow depth of field in your 4K 120 shots. So without further ado, let's start these tests. So here is the Sigma 24-70 at 24 with the MC11 adapter wide open at f2.8. And as you can see, this is the normal field of view. Now I'm going to show you the speed boosted 24. And as you can see from that, it is definitely much wider. This is also a boosted aperture. Even though it's technically 2.8, the extra stop makes it an f2.0. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the 24-70 stop down with the MC11 adapter, and I'm also going to show you stopping down with the speed booster. And one thing you'll notice off the bat is when shooting wide open, even at 2.8 or boosted 2.0, there is a little bit of ghosting in the wide open image on the 24-70. So you're not going to get as good image quality wide open on the 24-70 using a speed booster as you would just using a pass-through adapter. But then the second you stop down to the speed boosted 2.8, the image clears up a lot, and then by f4, it's pretty much even with using a pass-through adapter or the speed booster. So it's good to know. Now, this doesn't necessarily surprise me, as I had the same issues when shooting with the Metabones Speed Booster and, to even a greater extent, Viltrox's focal reducers on the Blackmagic Pocket 4K and the GH5. It was definitely more apparent on the Pocket 4K, especially shooting wide open. When I was using the Sigma 18-35, since the Micro Four Thirds is actually a 2x crop of full frame, I was actually only using a speed booster to get a Super 35 field of view and not a full frame field of view like I'm doing with the FX30. However, shooting wide open on the Sigma 18-35 had the same results. When shooting with lenses wide open, especially if they're 2.8 or lower, you aren't going to have the best performance wide open, but it's great to see that the second you stop down, you get pretty close to the same performance. By the way, if you like what you're seeing in today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with the latest videos. Now for the next test, you can take a look here at the autofocus. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The MC11 is just night and day better at autofocus with the 24-70. You can see that the autofocus does work on the Metabones adapter. However, it's just not nearly as quick as using it with the MC11. So that is definitely one thing to note if you absolutely need autofocus or if autofocus is critical to your work. Now, the last test, I'm just going to show you actually with a Sigma 18-35 what the difference in the crop modes are at 18 millimeters. Now here's a shot at 18 millimeters with the speed booster in crop mode, and then here is a shot at 18 millimeters without the speed booster with the MC11 adapter in crop mode. As you can see, using the speed booster definitely gives you a wider field of view, so if you want a little bit more of a shallow depth of field in your shots at 4K 120, well then I would definitely look at using a focal reducer for that mode. Now just to round us off with a few thoughts, when I first got the Metabones Speedbooster Ultra, this is actually the most recent glass that Metabones has come out with. However, it's been out for a while, and when I got it, it didn't work straight off the bat with the FX30, but once I went to Metabones' website, got the latest firmware update for the Metabones Speedbooster Ultra, all the electronics worked fine. Another thing is it's really tight to put some lenses on this Metabones Speedbooster, and it's also really tight to the body. Now, some people may like that because you're going to have not as much wiggle as any other adapter. However, it just is worth noting because I felt like I really had to squeeze it on, really had to put some pressure to get this adapter on the camera and also take the adapter off the camera. Another thing is, compared to the Viltrox, these speed boosters are still being sold at $650 on B&H and Adorama, whereas the Viltrox focal reducer brand new is around $188, $190 brand new. Now, I've always looked at the difference in price as the optical quality has always been better with the Metabones product. However, you are paying a premium for that. So I think it really depends on what your use is going to be, whether it makes sense to go out and spend the extra money on a Metabones speed booster or to go get the Viltrox focal reducer. I have not had great luck with the autofocus on the Viltrox focal reducer either. I actually don't have one for the Sony E-mount to compare. Right now, the only Viltrox focal reducer I have is the RF mount focal reducer that I use on the Komodo and the R7, which is discontinued. But just worth noting, that's what you are paying for with Metabones. You're paying for the little bit better optical quality, and I think you are paying, the autofocus does work like you saw, it's just not as good as using an MC11 adapter or some of the other adapters that are out there. So if you have any questions, any tests you'd like to see with the Metabones Speed Booster and the Sony FX30, make sure to put them in the comments below. And if you got knowledge and value out of today's video, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with the latest videos from the channel. Till next time, my name's Geoff Fagien. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next video.